FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Well, corporate greed and corruption is a topic that you've been trying to fire up Americans about for decades, and now the entire U.S. economic system is faltering because of it. Is there any part of you that kind of wants to say, I told you so?
Well, I testified, I warned. Years ago, I opposed President Clinton's financial deregulation of the banks and insurance companies and brokerage houses and investment banks. I mean, everybody knew at that time that if you just opened the door, took the federal cop off the corporate beat, got rid of Glass-Steagall, which prevented, since FDR, conflicts of interest between investment banks and regular banks, that it was going to happen, because it was basically saying to commercial greed, go for it. And you know, commercial greed doesn't recognize finite limits, except law and order and boundaries and standards. So it was predictable, but I don't say I told you so, but it would be nice if we'd learn from these situations. I mean, first it was the S&L collapse for similar reasons and other new reasons, and then it was the Silicon Valley collapse, and then it was long-term management, the big hedge fund, and this collapse, because there was no regulation. There was no power to shareholders. There was no disclosure. There was none of the kind of things that FDR taught us when there was a collapse during the Depression. We have to learn it all over again. Who pays the bill? Not these fat cats. They've got golden parachutes. It's the taxpayer, the worker, the consumer, the small investor. And that's not what that bailout plan is designed to help.
I assume you were against the bailout.
Yeah, because first of all, we should have congressional hearings with the best minds and the best public sentiments and public morality.
Is there time for that?
Oh, of course there is. I mean, look, they took off for a couple days now, and the market collapsed. I mean, Bush is panicking the markets. Paulson is panicking by saying, quick, we got to have this from Congress, ultimatum, give us your constitutional authority, give us a blank check, because Chicken Little. Well, naturally, they get a little irritated up on the street in Wall Street. They get a little anxious, but no. We have been stampeded into a criminal war invasion into Iraq. You remember that in 2003? And we're not going to let Bush get away with it. And I must say, there's an enormous outrage building around the country. And if House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, because she's the one who can stop it or enact this wrong-headed, blank check bailout law with no standards, no criteria, no evaluation issues, no taxpayer equity worthy of the game, and if she doesn't stop it, and if she comes back here to San Francisco, she's going to hit a hornet's nest.
I kind of interrupted you telling me perhaps your solution to the economic situation, or were you proposing that we just get the experts around a table and figure out something better?
Well, we needed public congressional hearings. They had congressional hearings for the Chrysler bailout, which is $1.5 billion under Jimmy Carter. And this is $700 billion, 28 years later. And all they have are hearings where the members of Congress ask the Treasury Secretary and Federal Reserve. That's not what I mean. I mean, get all kinds of people from around the country. What's the rush? $700 billion? They keep telling us we don't have it for health care. We can't afford it for drinking water cleanup. We can't rebuild the public works. Suddenly, they find $700 billion for the crooks and speculators on Wall Street, It's really strange. So answer your question. If we are going to move towards some bailout, first we have to decide whether it really is merited. We don't want to just be stampeded. If it is merited, what kind of bailout? Here's my suggestion. Any bailout should come with new comprehensive regulation, more power to the shareholders who would control those bosses, mutual funds, worker pension funds, independent investors. 2, full disclosure. 3, corporate prosecution of the corporate crooks and the disgorgement of their ill-gotten gains. And then we say, okay, where's the money going to come from? We haven't been told. Where's $700 billion going to come from? China? Japan? Are we going to raise taxes? Are we going to print money? Are we going to devalue the dollar and increase interest rates as a result? That's a rather modest inquiry for members of Congress to make. But here's the real rub. We should only bail out prudent institutions and innocent savers. Instead, this bailout is geared to bailing out imprudent, reckless institutions and speculators. They should take their own medicine. They want to behave like capitalists, then we'll let them behave like capitalists, and not have socialism in Washington bail them out.